And we're back. Hopefully, I won't go into a fourth. But yes, we see a vulnerability and romantic side to Little Murder, and how he's been lost since murder night. He's felt abandoned by Uncle Clifford, and rightfully so, because the way things ended that night, aside from the cliffhanger, which again, that's why I say please watch season one. But the way that Little Murder had been acting towards him, to play off that, he's not gay, that he's straight and whatnot, really hurt him, really hurt Uncle Clifford. And so quickly after that, especially since they had such a dramatic end to that night, he ghosted Little Murder. And I mean, they had a fight prior to the whole episode, which why I say watch it. So you all know what I'm talking about. But he ghosts Little Murder, and not for nothing. I feel like now that I mentioned the word ghost, I feel like season one was an introduction to who these characters are, and why they're so interesting, and slowly how they became beloved by the audience, spectators like myself. And then but we unfortunately had to see the crash and burn of P-Valley, so then now we can have the rise through the phoenix of what is season two. Everybody's kind of coming into their own, but ghosts are still lingering, and this is why I say that I'm getting a sense of reminiscence, a very familiar nostalgia for True Blood, because, and not for nothing, I think this is not because it's not, again, True Blood is its own entity, and P-Valley is its own show and entity as well. But I think the commonality here also plays into spiritualism, and also Catholicism, but we'll get into that in a little bit, because the spirit world is how a lot of people were able to survive atrocities in this country, through the slave trade, through just survival mode, through segregation, racism, Jim Crow. A lot of it is tied to spiritualism. So very reminiscent to how True Blood, which I believe True Blood took place in Louisiana, there is a connection to always the other realm, to the spiritual world. And now we're kind of seeing instances of this too. By chance, season two of True Blood is kind of giving me, or P-Valley is giving me vibes of season two of True Blood, or even season one, because I remember our Tara character, who's kind of reminiscent of Mercedes, who had pitfalls with her mother, had a lot of issues with her mother, lean into the spiritualism of how to best heal that relationship, but not here. Mercedes, it's a wrap when it comes with her mother, especially what she did to her. And again, I feel like I have to reshoot my opinions on season one, so y'all have a better understanding. And if you can find it on Instagram, bravo. I am available on Instagram under Nerdygirlreviews 33. But anyway, nonetheless, we see the reason why Mercedes has been going through so much. And not for nothing, again, in that room where it happened, the infamous murder night and the incident that happened on murder night, there was a shootout, and we left on a very like who shot JR kind of feel to that episode, to that season finale and cliffhanger. But we never knew of the three. We just know that Haley, who was our famous Autumn Night, that was her stripper name, was able to buy the club because it was close to foreclosure and auction, and she was able to lay down $250,000 stacks, like they say, to save the club. But now, because she footed the bill, she is partner to Uncle Clifford, and even Mercedes is partner as well. And we never knew who did it. But I think we have an inkling this second episode, because for the longest, and I'm under the assumption, or a lot of us are under the assumption, Mercedes is hurt because of constantly spinning on the pole and doing the whole Pussyland thing. And she's put stress on her arm because she is the headliner. They have great dancers, but she is the coming attraction. And so, and to do, she was the most expensive experience. If you did the whole car wash thing, she was pretty penny to see her do the whole like showmanship of it, that she was hurting her arm, and her arm's a little on the busted side. So now that life is kind of going back to normal and the lockdown is semi over, they're going back to the whole club sense of it. And again, God bless this crew and God bless the Starz. However protocol that they were able to do to really get that club full and it be like as if they were shooting before COVID, bravo to them. Even if they CGI'd it, it was beautiful. But nonetheless, she's been carrying this load on her arm, and there are instances in that room where we're to believe that perhaps there's something lingering there. Perhaps the person that was killed is still lingering there. And so she's trying to move past that, even though also she has that sticky situation with her mother who stole her gym to put her crazy church. So her relationship is still very much estranged with her mother. And we see that, she's still going strong. Her mother with the whole Bible church thing and also food pantry. She got very involved. She got very creative with her rapping and everything to create a crowding. But they were smart too. They were able to like stand exactly where her posters and advertisement for her church. They would put Pussy Valley and P Valley would stand right next to her sign and be like, "Don't even go there. Come over here." So there's still that rivalry, but the guilt of whatever happened that night on Mercedes was weighing heavy on her arm. So towards the end of this episode, we see the Diamond obviously must be some kind of shaman because he's able to kind of have an influence or use some kind of method that's more leaning towards spirituality to snap her out of whatever the pain that she was going through. Also because, okay, so now we also see how Haley is flexing her muscle as now part owner. And there are instances, people forget that P-Valley is a comedy, so there are instances, regardless of how dark and deep certain story arcs can get, it's still hysterical because there's moments where Uncle Clifford is like swallowing a foot of like me and her partners. Like it's like pains him to even admit that Haley's part partner, but she did essentially save his club, and he did his own part too. He was able to talk Mercedes' mom into getting like more of a community involvement. That these big companies and casinos can't just move in without a big vote of the community in itself. So he was able to do something in that sense. And we see also how Haley is playing into this club because we forget that her background was very much into, she was a financial advisor and consultant, corporate consultant. So she knows numbers. This woman knows numbers. So, but she also realizes that they need to make money and quick because they don't even, because of the strip club, which again plays into reality, because of these joints that are considered, a luxury, believe it or not, didn't qualify for any kind of financial assistance by the government. So again, very true to life. They did such an excellent job this season. And so Haley is in need of new people, new blood. And we see the introduction of these two new dancers. I think one of them is called Roulette, the other one's called Whisper. They're fabulous. The scenes, I don't know how they've been shooting it, but they look near aerobatic. Very wow, stunning. But then at the same time, because there are new blood, which this was Mercedes' worst fear come true, because they thought that they can have like a trio. She'd be Beyonce and they'd be the two in the back, but they bring their own. Plus, poor Mercedes busted with her arm that doesn't allow her to move much. These two are like, the new twin sensation. Everybody's drooling over them. That even with her sparklers that we saw in episode 1, Mercedes, and her doing it again, it wasn't the coming attraction, and she needed to do something to get the attention back on her. And as she's crawling up that stripper pole, unfortunately she lost her grip. She's sweating too, and she falls, and it's like, it's like every person's who works in the industry's worst nightmare. She falls flat on her back. I think she knocked out. And in the time being, Uncle Clifford, this is what I loved about these characters too. Where they're unapologetic about how these characters live their life. And we see that Uncle Clifford is also kind of going through the woes and motions of losing Little Murder, but out of pride is kind of keeping quiet and not talking or reaching out to him. And as he's celebrating his 40th, which, by the way, that is not such a horrible thing, that the way they're making it sound like he's 40 and still with his grandmama, like, oh my God, like you would have thought it was worse, like a death sentence, God forbid. But he's at home depressed, and his grandmama, who's blind, is like, you need to take out the trash. And I already did that. And then it's like, oh, but you didn't recycle. So in going out, we get a very kind of Atlanta, Jordan Peele feel to the scene in particular, which, again, if you haven't seen my review, I will link it somewhere here, or my Candyman review as well. But it turns into like almost like a thriller horror. All of a sudden, poor Uncle Clifford is kidnapped, and he's confessing all his sins because he thinks he's about to die. And then before we know it, we see him at his surprise birthday party that his grandmama had kind of also figured that he needed to cheer up, and it was all open air. Everybody's on roller skates. It was really cool, and it almost breaks your heart because you find out that Uncle Clifford didn't even get a chance to go to their prom, so they make him prom queen for his birthday party. He's celebrating with a cake that looks just like him. And then, but there's instances, again, him remembering Little Murder, because there's a guy that rents out the skates and looks very much like him, that he starts feeling reminiscent and nostalgic for Little Murder. And you can see his heart is kind of breaking. And they encourage him, like, you should, if he's that hot, you should pursue him. What are you doing? His friends. And he's like, you don't know what I've gone through with him, or whatever the case may be. But he still wants to maybe forget his woes, and has a tryst with the guy who's renting the skates. Which, not for nothing, and I've loved this approach too, of how they are introducing these characters and the visuals that we're seeing. That there is no apologies for full on male nudity, because it's always been women up until this point. So that there are instances that we do see full on frontal of male actors. It's about time. I love this show. This show's incredibly innovative, and I really want to see more of this particular show. And the reason why I say that is that while he's having his fun, poor Uncle Clifford's fun had to come to an end because Mercedes had fallen. And this is why I say it's very giving me Lafayette and Tara vibes, because what doesn't Lafayette do for Tara for True Blood? And here we have Uncle Clifford, what he doesn't do for Mercedes. And we saw that in season 1 as well. In fact, he almost puts her in the category of being like his daughter. So he runs to her aid, and the only thing that they can think of was to take Mercedes to Diamond. And he does this whole thing with it's almost like he's checking her aura, or see if there's anything that could be weighing her down. And to a certain extent seems like an exorcism, and he's able to use these stones. And see, I thought again he just had an affinity for stones, but he uses stones for healing and is able to exorcise whatever was weighing her down. And he also makes it a point. It says it takes 7 pounds for you to point and shoot. So that could be our inkling, maybe that she was the shooter. And she does say that she's worried she's going to get caught, and Uncle Clifford always tells her nothing's going to happen, only people that knows what happened are in this room. And then we see this whole altar thing for Diamond, and this is where we see spiritualism come in. And he's kept the ring of that person that is no longer alive, which Haley's like, you can't be keeping evidence like this around. This is dangerous. And he's like, it's for our protection and mine as well. So kind of back off. And then as we leave, we see that, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's been great seeing how these two characters were able to come together because they were at odds. They were like, at each other's throats in season one, Mercedes and Haley, and now that they were really getting along. It's unfortunate to see that because of what's happening, it's turning into a rift between them, and hopefully that'll have some kind of way of them reconciling, kind of like how we want to see Little Murder and Big Uncle Clifford reconcile as well. So unfortunately, Mercedes throws her out because Haley hasn't found her footing, even though she put the $250,000 down, but she hasn't made money yet. She's been looking, but she tells her, I want you out tonight. And so she had to stay at the club. And she has a moment for herself where she also, I think she feels liberated with dancing. And once again, we are also met with Andrew Watkins, played by Parker Sawyers, and they have a moment. He's still sticking around because one of those brothers. So now because Uncle Ruffin, I believe his name is, and has deceased, now they've taken over. Wayne Kyle has taken over as an interim mayor momentarily of this area of Chucalissa. And again, that's why I say season one is very telling, because we saw that they had very horrible racist, those southern standards of way of thinking, and especially when it came to people of color. So we'll see how this new role will play out for this temporary mayor, who already had also an issue with Watkins' character, and how he's going to be sticking around. So what does that mean between him and his wife? She's already kind of questioning who is Haley, and he has not answered. So we'll see how that also pans out. And these two new characters too. Again, it's leaning towards the spiritualism, because one of the new two dancers, Whisper, has this inkling for the spiritualism, and she's always like asking pendulums and if things swing, if she has an inkling of what is happening, and they're very kind of creeped out what's happening in the club. But anywho, those are a recap for the first two episodes. I really strongly advise you to watch it, especially season one. It is currently streaming on Starz. I am just, I'm enthralled. I'm enamored with this show. If you don't have any understanding either of like, because I want to say that our first introduction into like stripper life was through this comedy, The Players Club. I really also advise y'all to watch it. The character of the security of Big L, which is really funny, but he's reminiscent of definitely a Bernie Mac. And even the DJ, I think is DJ Not Scared or something like that. He's also blowing up too, and he's working with somebody, which is, I'm under the impression is like, could it be that it could have been Trina? We'll see. Some southern trap star. I think we're in for something. And the soundtrack has blown up too. Like, we're hearing Beyonce. A lot of people are investing in this show, and I think it's really keeping Starz really vital to the streaming services, because this show is popping. And yeah, we saw young Jamie Foxx in this movie. I really recommend this. But this is just like the prototype, and this is just so far more advanced. Also, if you want to have another taste of what Southern life is, and gay characters, black gay characters, I do advise you to also watch True Blood. I think I might go back and watch all the seasons, especially season one, and see if I reviewed it on my channel. But I was in love with True Blood, you don't know, and I loved Lafayette. And I still miss that show. If anything, this show is also giving me like nostalgic feelings. And again, if you feel like, this is like lowbrow, which it really isn't. Again, these things have always existed. This movie became popular because of stripper life. So this, it's not for me. It wasn't too entertaining. This had like much more grit. This had much more story and visuals, and now we have the brilliance of P-Valley, and I really strongly recommend that you watch it because it is a brilliant show. So please stay tuned. I will be reviewing more episodes. I'll try to watch them and review them maybe per episode or per 2 episodes. I also have to review a number of other movies that are currently streaming on Netflix and Hulu, so please stay tuned for that. If you like what you see, give us a like. Leave us a comment down below. If you'd like to follow me here on YouTube, hit the subscription button and the notification button so you can be alerted of my next review, haul, or DIY. I hope you've enjoyed also the things that I'm bringing to the channel, so it makes it lively. And let's play this out. I thought it was Overlove. It's called Fallen, and it's available on YouTube as well. But these songs are bumping, and they can be heard at any song, in any club, whatnot. I'm falling for this show. Please watch it. It's on Starz. Until next time, y'all. XOXO. Nerdy Girl. And tell me, y'all like it? I did this myself. Alright, y'all. XO. Nerdy Girl.